My name is Michael Keegan-Dolan. In Irish, my name is Michael Keegan-Dolan. My company is called Teac Daṁsa, which means house of dance. When people dance, it's rinka, and when animals dance, it's daŭsa. So we're the house of animal dance. Well, Teac Daṁsa started off as Fabulous Beast Dance Theatre many, many years ago. And at some point, I got fed up with the name. And around the same time, I decided to move to the Gaeltacht here in West Kerry, which is an area where people speak Irish primarily. And I renamed the company Teac Daṁsa because I also wanted to have a kind of a physical base, like a building, like a house. And I liked the idea of a creative space not being like many of the studios that I worked in throughout my life. Many of those studios felt like hospitals or laboratories or kind of weird corporate centres of excellence. So I like the idea of being creative in a more kind of familial, friendly space, because I think it lends itself towards kind of a deeper engagement with the imagination, ultimately. One of the reasons why we got the building was to make it a place where people can come if they want to. It's the house of dancers, so it's for dance people. So we called the company Teac Daṁsa in 2016. So we've been here in Dingle for 8 years, and we've been in this building for a year and a half. This part of Ireland is packed full of music and mythology and story. Gaeltacht just happens to have like these incredible mountains. They're kind of some of the highest mountains in Ireland, and they kind of roll down to the Atlantic Ocean. Mom first is a mountain pass. So if you're looking into the Gaeltacht, you're looking through this particular mom, and it's this shape. But it also means handful, which is this shape. But it also means obligation. The reason why moms were special places was because when people were walking somewhere or cycling somewhere, they had to go that way. It was also a good place for two families might meet to have a discussion, in inverted commas. If you're going somewhere and the only way to get there is through the mountain pass, I assume you're obliged to go that way. I like the idea, that you're obliged. Like I felt this kind of obligation to make this piece when I moved here. Like I couldn't not make it. And it wasn't easy making it, like for obvious technical, practical reasons, but we made it, and I'm delighted, we did. People know that this is a piece of art, and something happens, and they get a bit jingle-jangled, and then they come running up to you after, and they want to know what it was. The whole point of art is to take you into these spaces that are unfamiliar and extraordinary and inspiring. If I was to guide someone to watch Mom, I would say, don't get too caught up in what it's about. Just allow yourself to feel. The thing about poetry and the thing about dancing is that if I wanted to explain something to you, I'm a pretty smart individual. Like I've read a few books and I've been to school. I'll just explain it to you. My thesis would be that in a world where things can be explained relatively easily, things don't always go particularly well for us. Like we still somehow manage to kind of make things extremely complicated, and a lot of people walk around feeling very unhappy. So my idea as an artist would be maybe to reconsider the necessity to understand everything that you see, to explain everything, and that there's something can happen, particularly in a piece of dance, that transcends this need to understand and can go directly to your heart or to your liver or to your small intestine or your genitals or your lower back and trigger or inspire an experience or a sensation that we would describe as other, and that you might then have to go for a walk and consider it. Or you might sleep a bit better. Or you might have an incredible dream that then triggers a change in direction in your life. But if you reduce everything to, is it this? And this happens all the time with dance, and I feel so sorry for any dance practitioners who are trying to make work that doesn't have a story. There's also this very tangible connection between breathing and musicality, and kind of the cadence of how you do things. So practice kind of cultivates that quality or that capacity in a person, be them a musician, an actor, or a dancer. Yeah, the process is kind of, I suppose, it's built around physical practice that I learned from a couple of individuals. One is a martial artist, one is a yoga practitioner. There's elements in the practice that I discovered through doing them that were really useful for me as a dancer. Well, in my particular case, as a choreographer. So I began to realize that although I trained, that I didn't comfortably make a connection between breathing and moving. So you start to get more aware of how you breathe, then you start to get aware more of how you feel. If you're an artist, you need to be allowed to be messy, and you need to be allowed to connect with how you're feeling and then make dances from how you're feeling. And then the dances will actually look like they represent something rather than being an abstract projection of your kind of reasonable mind. And then you're into kind of community, because then you're becoming aware of the other people in the room who may not be feeling as you are feeling. They may not be breathing as you're breathing. But if you want to work with ensemble ideas or kind of collective ideas, instead of having someone shouting 7-8, 7-8 and kind of intimidating you into unity, you find this kind of harmony through breathing, through musicality, through awareness. If you're going to work in a communal way, then you need to work in a communal way, which means having respect and regard for your collaborators, which means ensuring they have enough time to rest, eat, that the conditions that they're in are good. So that's how we work. That's the kind of technical part. And then there's another kind of, the other part is then, when you get all that working correctly, people start to relax a bit, and then people start to offer steps, stories, histories. Cormac, when he gets into the right kind of space, he plays in a particular way. It's transformative, like that when you dance to Cormac, when he's playing in a particular way, you dance in a way that you maybe would never have danced before. And all this stuff starts to happen. And then my job is to try to gather it all and make a piece of work, which then needs to fit into a kind of a structure, which is like a tour. And most tours go to venues that mostly have proscenium arches, that mostly have seats, straight on like that, in this confrontational, weird kind of relationship. And you have to somehow bring all this kind of circular energy, all this communal energy, all this breadth of musicality into this kind of linear kind of, it feels very kind of imperial, kind of like, ugh. So somehow you have to kind of make it feel a bit more friendly. And that's the job. That's a really difficult job, to take what we do here and put it in somewhere like Sadler's Wells, you know. But that's my job. We did a lot of music workshops before we got into the room over here. We did one in Berlin, we did one in Amsterdam together, and then there was a lot of back and forth. The thing was definitely built around Cormac's music and those tunes. There were one or two pieces of music that were kind of that grew out of what was going on in the room, that were not directly connected to what Cormac was doing, but primarily they're responding. They're in that responsive mode. Cormac, I remember, would be very clear, like, this tune has been around for a long time, and the reason why it's been around for a long time is because it's good. It's a good tune. When things have been around, like me, when you've been around for a while, like you get kind of there's something about you. Like, you know, I know we're also very taken with the youth culture of beauty and newness, but there's also this power that comes with something that's been around for a long time, like a mountain. The capacity for the Irish to commission a piece of music was cut short or kind of broken by a colonial invasion. So our history of music is different to most, if not all, European countries. Our classical music stops, what you'd call classical music, around the 17th century. Some tunes exist and have been gathered and passed on through, you know, person-to-person playing, but our classical music, or our high music, what you'd call, is our traditional music. So for various other reasons to do with laws and oppression, music was kind of turned in, and some of it was hidden, some of it was played in houses. So the kind of the virtuoso music is what you'd call, what people in other countries would associate with folk music. And there's this strange hierarchy in music that still kind of exists, where if I said to you, which music is harder to play, which music is more important, which music is, you know, higher, classical or folk, most people would say classical, because in our poorly educated consciousness, we associate classical and hard with higher. But actually it's all made up. So our music is coming from our folk tradition, which is associated with people who also maybe work in a field or drive a truck or play for the local football team. But some of these players were like highly sophisticated, virtuoso individuals, both men and women, bringing a classical contemporary ensemble from Europe, mostly Dutch, French, Austrian, like mixed up from European nationalities, bringing them here and putting them around Cormac, kind of in service of Cormac's music, Cormac's tradition, which has been handed to him over many, many hundreds of years, was an exciting thing to do. It felt like putting something back together, like in a kind of a small gesture towards something that maybe had been broken. It's quite a thing to be Irish, you know. Like, and I'm not sure, this is the other thing we've talked about a lot. One of the reasons why maybe the gap between Irish and English people could maybe be reduced if English people knew a little bit more about the history of Ireland. And it's prickly, but like, we've got over it. Like we're over it. But the problem is that when we sometimes talk to our English colleagues or friends, they don't even know that between 1 and 2 million people died of a famine in this country between 1845 and 1850. So like, that's my history. The great thing about doing this tour, bringing the show around England, is the chance that I could have more conversations with all sorts of people just about what Ireland is, or what it has been, and what it might become, right? Like, that's the point of doing art. My feeling is that in this country, a lot of people find it easier to slip into the world of imagination, into the world of spirit. We really value our folklore. We really value our myths. We really value, well, we're beginning to value more our language, our indigenous language, and that connection to the earth and to the ground and the mountains and the ocean. We really value our culture, our music. I mean, it's a great idea to take an audience into that world. But I've thought about that a lot. Like, that's all I want to do. By nature, I'm a generous person. For better or for worse, some people are generous, some people aren't. And there's advantages and disadvantages, right? Artists are generally very generous, and choreographers, I think, you know, you're in that shared space a lot, but you want to bring people into your world. I think art is problematic because it can be a bit higher, and like it can make people think, ooh, I shouldn't go out to see art, right? Like it's for educated people, which is also nonsense. So there's something about spirit, feeling, that if people come and see a piece of work, if somehow it kind of validates their existence or their suffering or their connection to people, planet, like to life and death, that would be great.